My sister brought 10 strangers to my birthday party. It was her boyfriend and his family. They acted like it was their party. I decided to wait until her birthday and do the same with 15 strangers. Everyone was shocked by what I did. I'm Amber, and I just turned 26 a few months ago. I've been holding this in for far too long, but now that I've had time to reflect and plot, I'm ready to share. It's one thing when people disrespect your time, another when they stomp on your boundaries, but when it's family, that betrayal cuts deeper. This is the story of how my sister hijacked my birthday, and how I calmly, precisely, and delightfully decided that I wouldn't let it slide. My birthday has always been important to me. Not in a Princess Day kind of way, but as someone who works long hours in digital marketing, I rarely take time to celebrate myself. So this year, I wanted something special but intimate, a rooftop dinner at this gorgeous spot downtown that overlooks the skyline. Think fairy lights, light jazz, city air, and those soft little candles on each table. The reservation was made 3 weeks in advance. I confirmed the guest list personally. There were 12 of us, my best friends since college, my boyfriend Marcus, a couple of close cousins, and my parents. Every single person was someone I loved and trusted. I paid a deposit up front to hold the space, and even pre-selected a custom prix-fixe menu. I poured hours into making sure it was beautiful and smooth. My sister Natalie is 2 years older than me. She's the kind of person who has a flair for dramatics and somehow always finds herself at the center of attention, even when it's someone else's moment. We've had a rocky dynamic since childhood. She always needed to top me. If I got a new phone, she needed the latest model. If I was going on a vacation, she would mysteriously have one booked the following week. So when I didn't invite her boyfriend to the dinner, someone she had only been dating for 2 months and whom I had met precisely once, I knew she would have a reaction. I didn't expect it to be this extreme. 2 hours before the dinner, she texted me saying, "Hey, hope you don't mind, I'm bringing my boyfriend and a few people." I stared at my phone, slightly annoyed, but I told myself to let it go. I assumed a few meant 2 or 3 at most. What's a couple more chairs, right? Oh, how wrong I was. Natalie showed up in a bodycon dress like she was heading to a nightclub, and not alone. Her boyfriend, who still hadn't made eye contact with me the one time we met, walked in ahead of her like he owned the place. Behind him came an entire entourage. I counted 10 in total, his 3 siblings, both of his parents, 2 random cousins, and his best friend. I watched them enter in slow motion, a parade of strangers dressed like they were headed to a club opening. I was stunned. Everyone else at the table was visibly confused. My friend Kelsey leaned toward me and whispered, "Amber, who are these people?" The worst part. They immediately made themselves comfortable. They started waving down the server, ordering drinks, cocktails, and appetizers from the regular menu, not the prefixed one I had arranged. One of the sisters loudly announced she was so glad they made it in time for the birthday surprise, as if they had been invited to a party in their honor. His mother stood up before we even ate and raised her wine glass to toast, not to me, but to him, saying how proud she was of him for being such a grounding influence on Natalie. I wanted to disappear into the floor. The vibe went from cozy celebration to awkward networking event in less than 10 minutes. My parents looked uncomfortable. My boyfriend tried to hold it together but kept shooting me sideways glances like, "Do we say something?" My cousins whispered among themselves, trying to keep it light. But I was just sitting there, my name on the reservation, the candles burning, staring at a table half filled with strangers who didn't even acknowledge me. When the bill came, the situation somehow got worse. These people, who ordered bottles of wine, extra desserts, and a full dinner from the à la carte menu, started slipping away. One by one, they disappeared. Some went to the bathroom and never came back. Others claimed they were stepping outside for air. By the time the check hit the table, only 5 of them were still sitting there, including Natalie and her boyfriend. She smiled sweetly and said she would Venmo me later, as if that erased the fact that I had just been blindsided. I never received a cent. The final bill came to $873, plus the deposit. I paid it. I walked to my car that night numb. My parents were livid. My friends hugged me tightly and promised to make it up to me next weekend. But I said nothing to Natalie. I hugged her politely, thanked her for coming, and drove home in silence. And I stewed. I thought about it for days. Weeks. Every time I looked at the photos from that night, all I could see was a birthday that wasn't mine. A celebration I paid for that turned into a stranger's social hour. It wasn't just about the money. It was about how effortlessly she made the entire night about herself, how she took something meaningful to me and twisted it into a stage for someone else. Natalie didn't just overstep. She bulldozed through my boundaries with zero shame, and when I brought it up casually 2 weeks later, she laughed and said, "Well, they had a great time." That was when it clicked. She genuinely thought she had gotten away with it. That I had rolled over and moved on, like always. She thought I was too gracious to fight back. But she forgot one very important thing. My birthday may have been hijacked. But hers was coming up next. And I was going to get even. Natalie's birthday rolled around last week, and ever since the mess she made of mine, I had been waiting for this moment with a steady, deliberate sense of purpose. It was not about bitterness, and it certainly was not about petty revenge. It was about clarity. My sister had shown me exactly where we stood. In her eyes, I was a convenient prop, someone who could provide a nice background for her spotlight moments. I was a facilitator, not a participant. And I had played that role for years, allowing her to make herself larger than life while I stepped quietly aside. But not anymore. She planned what she described, very publicly, as a chill backyard birthday cookout at our parents' house. That phrase alone appeared no fewer than 5 times on her Instagram stories the week before the event. Her feed was a curated museum of curated details, photos of soft golden fairy lights being tested between the trees, short clips of her handwriting adorable chalkboard menus that read things like Natalie's famous grilled corn and mocktails for the soul. She filmed herself arranging white tablecloths, folding napkins around sprigs of rosemary, even posting polls asking whether mason jars or stemless wine glasses were more in line with the vibe. From the outside, it looked wholesome, minimalist, intentional, personal. She repeatedly told everyone the guest list was small, just family and a few close friends. She said the mood would be chill vibes only. But what she really wanted was control. Total, uninterrupted, aesthetically pleasing control. And she expected all of us to play along. I told her I would be there. I even asked her if she needed anything from me, drinks, decorations, supplies. She said no, just wear something light, and try to bring a good attitude. Then she added, "I'm going all white this year, just for me, but no pressure." Her tone was light and breezy, but I could hear the sharpness in it. It was not a suggestion. It was a warning, do not upstage me. That was when I started planning. Not a scene. Not a meltdown. Not something loud and messy. Just something appropriate. I made my own guest list. 15 people. 15 very specifically chosen people. Not strangers. Not nobodies. Each one had a reason to be there, or, more accurately, a reason to irritate Natalie. I started with my coworkers from the salon, people Natalie never liked because she thought they were too woo-woo and talked too much about astrology and detoxes. Jess, in particular, has a tendency to tearfully monologue about her third eye when she drinks more than one hard seltzer. She was my first yes. Next came my boyfriend's 3 gamer friends. She had clashed with them before at a party when they beat her boyfriend in a video game tournament and did not let him win, to be polite. She called them childish men in adult bodies. They remembered that. They were excited to come. Then I reached out to Brian, my high school debate partner. The one who dated Natalie briefly, took her to 3 school events, then ghosted her the night before senior prom. She never forgave him. When I told him what I was doing, he laughed for a full minute before agreeing. "I'll even bring wine," he said. And he did, a bottle labeled, "for old time's sake." To add a touch of unpredictability, I invited Danielle, my college roommate, and her son Louis. Louis is a loud, chaotic ball of toddler energy. He yells, throws food, imitates dogs by barking at strangers, and has absolutely no volume control. Danielle apologized for him in advance. I told her not to. "Bring his snacks, his toys, whatever makes him happy," I said. "I'm sure Natalie's party will be toddler-friendly." I lied, obviously. And finally, the finishing touch, I hired a freelance disc jockey named Rico. He was not some subtle background music guy. Rico had worked nightclubs, student raves, even one foam party on a boat. I told him I wanted ambience. He interpreted that as fog machines, pulsing bass lines, random explosions of air horn effects, and mashups of early 2000s hip-hop hits. Ideal. As for clothing, well, Natalie had posted 3 separate updates showing off her planned birthday outfit. A white jumpsuit. White platform heels. A sparkling white hair clip. She looked like a bridal-themed influencer photo shoot. So, naturally, I texted my entire guest list and said, white only. It's part of the aesthetic. Natalie loves cohesion. Every single person showed up in white. The day arrived, warm and breezy, a perfect early summer afternoon. We gathered just down the block from our parents' house, 15 of us standing in coordinated white outfits, laughing and hyping each other up. Rico was already setting up portable speakers in the trunk of his car. Jess was burning sage and chanting softly about spiritual awakenings. Brian wore a white linen suit and carried his wine like a prop in a play. Louis was licking ketchup off his own elbow and screaming, "Cars," at passing traffic. We looked unhinged. We looked magnificent. When we finally turned the corner and walked up the driveway, we did it together, like a spontaneous wedding party crashing a stranger's cookout. Natalie was standing near the grill in her white jumpsuit, perfectly posed with a mason jar in one hand and a skewer of vegetables in the other. She was surrounded by soft pink balloons, pastel paper fans hanging from the fence, and a carefully arranged display of personalized gift bags. For about 5 seconds, she looked angelic, magazine perfect. Then she turned, saw us, and froze. 15 people. All dressed in white. All marching up to her curated little kingdom like we had been summoned for a photo shoot. Jess ran forward and hugged her, talking about moon cycles. Louis sprinted across the yard and started screaming, "Bees! Bees," even though there were none. Rico rolled in with a Bluetooth speaker strapped to his chest and launched directly into a bass-heavy remix of "Yeah" by Usher. Plastic plates rattled on tables. The string lights flickered from the vibration. Natalie's face did not simply fall, it collapsed. Her eyes scanned the group, trying to make sense of what was happening. Her hand tightened around her drink. Her shoulders rose slowly as she spotted Brian, then Danielle, then the gamers, then Jess. Her expression flickered from confusion to horror to open fury. She stormed over and hissed, "Who are these people?" I smiled, stepped forward, and gently touched her arm. I kept my voice soft and pleasant as I said, "Do not worry. I just brought a few friends. Hope you do not mind." Within 30 minutes of our arrival, the situation disintegrated into absolute chaos. It began slowly, the way storms always do. A few dark clouds on the horizon, a gust of wind too sharp for a summer afternoon. The first ripple came when Louis, Danielle's hyperactive toddler, discovered the dessert table. Specifically, the cake. It was a meticulously crafted 3-tiered white and gold buttercream monstrosity with edible flowers, gold flakes, and Natalie's initials embossed across the top tier. She had posted pictures of it the night before with hashtags like #birthdayqueen and #tooprettytoeat. Louis clearly disagreed with that sentiment. One moment he was babbling happily beside the lemonade dispenser. The next, he lunged forward, grabbed one of the bottom tiers with both sticky hands, and yanked. The whole thing tipped with a slow-motion elegance, landing face-first on the grass with a splat that echoed through the backyard like a gunshot. Silence followed. Even Rico, mid-Usher remix, paused his beat to absorb what just happened. Natalie shrieked. She ran toward the ruins of her cake like someone had just toppled a sacred altar. Her hands fluttered uselessly above it as if she could somehow put it back together with sheer willpower. Louis giggled and clapped. Danielle apologized repeatedly, but it was like trying to put out a wildfire with a water bottle. Then things escalated. Rico, ever the crowd pleaser, started taking song requests. Someone, I still do not know who, asked for a parody remix of a viral TikTok Natalie had starred in 2 years ago. It was one she had gotten clowned for relentlessly online. Her attempt at a sultry lip sync had instead become the subject of endless duets, edits, and roast threads. She deleted her account for a month after that. Rico found the remix. Not just the original audio, but a bass-boosted, echo-laced, auto-tuned disaster that included slowed-down audio of her voice over a trap beat. As it blared through the speakers, several people began laughing. One of the salon girls, bless her lack of social awareness, began imitating the original video, right there in front of the grill. Natalie stood motionless, eyes wide, lips parted. Her face turned a deep crimson. But it was only getting started. My boyfriend's gamer friends, who had discovered the patio television and backyard Wi-Fi, set up a Mario Kart tournament within minutes. They moved furniture, dragged out extension cords, and brought folding chairs from the garage. The entire side of the yard transformed into a viewing area with snacks, brackets, and loud commentary. One of them put on a cardboard crown and announced himself as the champion of the Koopa Kingdom. The younger guests gravitated to the spectacle. Some of Natalie's invited friends ditched her mocktails and rosemary appetizers to sit on the patio and scream over pixelated banana peels. Natalie, still reeling from the cake incident and TikTok remix, looked over and saw her party being absorbed into something unrecognizable, hijacked, loud, and laughing without her. But the moment that broke her, the final nail, was the toast. Brian, my old debate partner and her long-ago ex, stood up with his glass raised. I should have stopped him. I did not. I was too busy sipping a wine cooler and marveling at the unraveling of Natalie's perfect aesthetic dream. He cleared his throat and began, I used to know Natalie very well. A few people chuckled. Natalie froze. Brian continued, smiling that unbothered, charming smile he always had. And I'm glad to see she's matured. Somewhat. A wave of laughter exploded from the Mario Kart section. Natalie's face twisted. It was not just embarrassment now. It was fury. She stormed forward, grabbed the microphone from Rico, and screamed for everyone to leave. Her voice cracked mid-yell, tears streaking her perfectly contoured cheeks. The crowd stilled. It was like someone cut the power on the whole scene. My parents were frozen, holding half-eaten kebabs and clearly unsure of how to intervene. My mother looked like she wanted to faint. My father stared at the pool like he wished he could fall in and disappear. No one moved. Then, slowly, like a ripple through a still pond, people began gathering their things. The gamers powered down the console. Rico packed up his soundboard. Jess said something about the full moon being misaligned. Louis threw a hot dog into a potted plant. I remained where I was, standing off to the side, sipping my wine cooler with the relaxed posture of someone watching daytime television. I had no intention of leaving early. I had RSVP'd. I had brought my own drinks. I was going to enjoy the backyard I helped maintain growing up, and I was going to watch the scene unfold to its inevitable conclusion. Natalie cornered me after most of the guests had left. Her face was flushed, her hair frizzing around the edges, mascara smudged at the corners of her eyes. She looked at me, wild and furious, and yelled, asking why I would ruin her birthday like this. I met her gaze directly, calm and measured, and replied, asking why she would bring 10 strangers to my birthday and leave me with a $900 bill. She stared at me in silence. Her lip trembled. Then the tears came harder, and she turned away, shaking with frustration and embarrassment. For a moment, a very brief moment, I felt a twinge of guilt. Watching her break down like that, seeing her standing alone among ruined decorations and melting ice, I almost softened. Almost. But then the memory hit me, the sound of her laugh when I tried to bring up the bill, her smug little shrug, her voice saying, they had a great time, like that was all that mattered. The awkwardness I felt at my own party. The check I paid. The strangers who toasted someone else in my name. And just like that, the guilt evaporated. Guilt gone. So, here's the twist I truly did not see coming. Roughly a week after Natalie's party imploded in a glorious mess of cake, soundboards, and karmic echoes, I got a call from my mother inviting me over for dinner. She called it a family dinner, but her voice had a particular tightness to it. It was the voice she used when she meant business, soft around the edges, but with a center of steel. She said my father would be there too, and that Natalie had confirmed she was coming. I could practically hear the subtext humming beneath her words. I was tempted to decline. After all, I had already executed what I considered a masterclass in poetic justice, and I had no desire to rehash the drama or be painted as the villain for disrupting Natalie's carefully choreographed image. But curiosity won. If nothing else, I wanted to see how far Natalie would go to spin the narrative in her favor. I arrived to find the table already set. Real china, cloth napkins, wine glasses, the good setup. My mother had made her signature lemon rosemary roast chicken, the kind of meal she only prepared when she was trying to restore order through culinary diplomacy. Natalie was already seated, back perfectly straight, her hands folded in her lap like a teenager being made to sit through a lecture. Her expression was guarded, not angry, not smug, just blank. Like she had rehearsed looking neutral but had forgotten how to breathe. My dad was pouring wine, doing that thing he does when he's trying to infuse a tense room with artificial warmth. I took my seat, offered a polite smile, and waited. And then, something unexpected happened. They did not ease into it with awkward small talk. They did not wait for dessert, or for a lull in the conversation. My parents went straight for the center. My mother began by saying they had noticed the tension between Natalie and me, and that they were concerned. She said Natalie had told them I had been acting irrationally and cruelly, and that my behavior at her birthday party had crossed the line from sibling rivalry into outright sabotage. I said nothing. I didn't even flinch. I let them speak. Then my mother turned to me and said something that shifted everything. She said she had called the restaurant where I had held my birthday dinner. She had spoken to the manager directly. She told me she saw the finalized guest list, the original seating arrangement, and most importantly, the bill. She looked at me and said that she now understood the full story. She knew I had planned something small and meaningful, something intimate, and that it had been hijacked without warning or apology. She told me, without flinching, that she and my dad were genuinely sorry they had not seen it sooner. My father leaned forward and added that he wished I had told them what happened. He said they would have helped cover the cost, not because they felt obligated, but because no one should have to foot a $900 bill for someone else's ego. He said he did not approve of retaliation, but he understood it in this case. That what I had done at Natalie's party, while chaotic, was not random or cruel, it was a mirror. And Natalie had been forced to look into it. Natalie was silent through most of it. At first, she looked stunned. Then slowly, her cheeks flushed. Not the sharp red of anger, the deeper, slower red of embarrassment. She stared at her plate, barely moving, her fingers tightening around her water glass. When she finally spoke, her voice was hushed and defensive. She said she thought it would be fun to mix friend groups. That she had not expected the dinner to be so formal. That she had assumed I would be okay with it, and that it was supposed to be a surprise, something lively and exciting. My mother did not let that stand. She told Natalie point-blank that what she had done was not a surprise, it was a hijacking. She said she understood wanting to bring people together, but not at the expense of someone else's moment. That what Natalie had done was selfish, not just inconsiderate, but dismissive. She said I had been forced to clean up the mess, emotionally and financially, and that if the roles were reversed, Natalie would have never tolerated it. Then she said the words I never expected to hear leave her mouth. She told Natalie she owed me an apology. And a refund. There was no yelling. No tears. No performative outburst. Just a deeply awkward silence, the kind that sits in your bones and echoes inside your chest. Natalie looked so small. So deflated. She did not argue. She did not try to deflect or spin. She just nodded slowly, mumbled something about figuring out how to pay me back, and stood up. She left before dessert was served. No dramatic goodbye. No stomping. Just the sound of the screen door closing softly behind her. And suddenly, it was quiet again. The air felt clearer. My parents said little else after that. My mother brought out the peach cobbler she had made, and my dad poured another glass of wine. It was one of the most surreal endings to a conflict I had ever experienced. For once, no one twisted the narrative. No one demanded that I explain myself. No one tried to guilt me into taking the high road. The truth sat in the center of that table like an undeniable guest, and for the first time in a long while, everyone looked at it without blinking. 3 days later, I got a Venmo notification. It was from Natalie. $450. Half of what I had spent that night. The note attached read, partial refund. You got the rest in chaos. I sat with that for a while. Stared at the message, unsure if I should laugh or be annoyed. It was so Natalie, to frame it with that little twist of backhanded wit, as if the chaos itself had monetary value. But the number mattered more than the words. It was not just a refund. It was a concession. It was acknowledgement. For someone like Natalie, who had spent years deflecting responsibility and pretending she was immune to consequences, it was something close to miraculous. I did not respond. I did not send a thank you or a snide comment. I did not screenshot it or gloat to friends. I just let the money sit in my account and took a deep, clean breath. Because that Venmo notification was not just a financial transaction. It was closure. It was the final beat in a story I had not expected to end so quietly, but perfectly. No dramatic collapse. No explosive confrontation. Just Natalie, cornered by her own actions, finally forced to reckon with the reality she had created. And me, standing in the quiet aftermath, knowing I had defended myself in the most poetic way possible, with truth, timing, and a well-timed toddler covered in buttercream. I am completely satisfied with this and glad it all ended this way.